Go live. In theory, we're live. Hello, everyone. I'm Alan, and this is the Anchore open source gardening live stream that we do every Thursday, where I am joined with the fine people who work on the open source software at Anchore. That is Alex. Is that way? Alex is there. Keith, Chris, and Will. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Happy Thursday.
Good.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Excellent. And happy Thursday to all of you. So if you want to know anything about our software, there's a few places you can go. The website that I've got on screen here is anchor.com/open source. I made a little video earlier in the week, and I've added it in here. So that little 1-minute video I put in here because I thought, well, I was told to, so I put it in. It's not me. I was told, so you can find links to our projects here, and also a link over here to our discourse, which is online forum where you can find us. All our software is over on GitHub. I'm trying something different here. I'm not logged into GitHub, so we'll see how this works. Whether I'll get API failures or whatever. But you'll find all our open source software, as well as blog posts and links to conversations that are happening on Discourse. And there's all our open source projects all down here, loads and loads and loads of them. The two main ones we tend to talk about is Syft and Grype, but that diminishes the importance of things like Funnel and GrypeDB and all the other projects. So we sometimes touch on some of the others as well. But you'll find on Discourse there's a post, and we have a link down here for things that need discussion, which is what we usually talk about first. Anything else that needs our collective brains, mostly everyone else's brains, I'll be fair. I am just the conduit that presents this to you. And then if anyone has any questions or comments, we can bring that up as well. So we've got some numbers down here of how many needs discussions we have. Shall we dive in? Any special requests before I do? Feel free to let me know.
I think I've got a couple. So there's one me and Keith were talking about. It's Syft 592 about uploading SBOM directly to OCI registries. And
Syft 592.
Third
That's
on the
right.
way.
Is it on here already? Oh, there it is.
third, yeah.
Nice one. I love it. Brilliant. Upload
There's
SBOM
another-
directly to an OCI registry. Okay. Who's taking lead on this one?
Yeah, I could take a stab. And I mean, Keith, unless you want to take point.
No, go for it.
I mean, so me and Keith were talking about this one earlier during triage, and it's essentially, I mean, before I talk about a specific issue, like one of the philosophies that we raised up was like, and I'm kind of curious on one of the discussion points here on this particular philosophy point, which is, well, we think that Syft should be doing more things for users in terms of like being a facade for placement of stuff or getting things and preventing users from needing to go write extra scripting or other commands in order to get things and put things in places. Okay, so that being said, so this particular issue is about uploading SBOMs directly to the OCI registry. So specifically, like instead of outputting a file just to a flat file to disk, like I want to go ahead and plop that blob, that SBOM into the registry in the same, and the question is like, in which way? There's a few ways to do this. This is an old issue. So it's referring to the same way that cosine attach does, which is essentially a really a tagging convention, but like you're uploading a raw blob and saying, well, now I have a tag underneath the same image, but it's not actually an image. Instead, it's an SBOM. But there's also new ways to do this too, using like OCI artifacts and reference types. And that's kind of, so that's another part of the discussion, which is like, well, do we want to use like the latest and greatest, or do we want to support multiple mechanisms here? So the multiple mechanisms being like the one suggested in this issue, which is cosine attach approach, or additional, like, the OCI artifacts slash reference types. Okay, so that's a lot. I don't know, do folks have questions on like what this is, what do I represent first before diving into some of those other sub questions?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I think where this goes sideways for me, and I don't know if this is a question that we have that's like more specific question, but I understand that we can upload the SBOM as like its own layer that's labeled in the manifest that is the same between both the Docker and OCI formats. Like Docker is just a subset of OCI at this point. They just overlap with some special Docker related metadata that they include on their side. But when it gets to supporting like multi-architecture images and individual SBOMs per architecture and how they get stored, that's where it kind of goes sideways for me. So that might be too specific for where we want to go, but let's pop off and talk more general of where you were going.
In theory, it's possible for a short answer, but yeah, I probably won't double click on it. Like this, I don't think there's anything technically blocking, but it would add like one extra layer of complexity. I mean, that means being able to look for the index or manifest and then appropriately amending those is the short answer. Yeah.
Well, it looks like cosine. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So this is, as a side note, like what this is looking at, this is talking about like kind of cosine it itself. Wait, am I misunderstanding? Yeah, this is for cosine itself. The mechanism still works with OCI. Like you can still do that same OCI attachment approach just for SBOMs. But yeah, cosine is primarily about attestations in this front. So it's saying, hey, we're like instead make an attestation with the SBOM, put that SBOM in the attestation rapid and then in total attestation and then push that attestation up. And that makes sense in its own way.
But that would mean you would have to sign the document before you upload it. You couldn't just upload it. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Right.
So then you got to get like keys involved, and this is what cosine is great at. Like cosine is great at like, I have a set of keys in some format. I'll create an attestation for it, or I can generate keys like ephemeral keys on the fly, and do a keyless signing process, and all that's great. Like no qualms. But it's also slightly different. Like if you don't want to get involved with the signing at all, then this is another option where it's like I just want to upload it.
Is there a generic tool that people use to upload SBOMs? Like if they're doing it out of band, like is there another tool that does one thing well, like the Unix philosophy, like SBOM upload or something like that, or SBOM publish or something?
There's a couple. And it's not specifically for SBOM, so it's specific for files. So cosine has some subcommands that just says, attach a blob. So here's a blob, go put it in the registry, which is nice. Another one, which is a little more agnostic, is ORAS. OCI, what is it? OCI registry of storage or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's using reference type. So using the refers API, it's not doing the cosine attach approach. But we use that too internally for like say Grype DB caches and putting that into the OCI registry. It's very useful.
So who was it that brought this up? Was this you or who was it who wanted to was it Keith?
I mean, it was both of us. I guess just it's one of those things, I think, similar to what Alex said. just trying to figure out in part like the philosophy of Syft, right? And I mean, Alex kind of already touched on that, but is it something where we should make Syft do more stuff on, for people to make that simpler and more, less error prone? And I think like I'm leaning on that side as opposed to the opposite, which is, make Syft do the one thing very well, and then if you want to do these other things, you're on your own. Just because of the nature of like what we tend to do with Syft, right? It's like we tend to go and fetch something from a remote place a lot of the time anyway. So we already like are dealing with registries. We're already dealing with, whatever sort of interactions we need to do all that stuff in the first place. So let's just do it on the flip side, and we can, make people's lives easier that way. I feel like. I guess like Alex did have a couple of questions that I put on this towards the bottom too. Like, should we be a bit more specific and have like some different flavors of supporting things like OCI annotations, and we do that one path and do it a certain way, or cosine attach. I mean, we've already got that functionality, but go ahead, Will.
Yeah. I was going to say one of the things that sort of scrolled by as we were setting up for this. Somebody early in the discussion linked to a cosine spec on how attach works. That has right at the top that cosine attach is deprecated.
Yes.
I think because they see the value not in attaching an SBOM and saying, really, I say so. They see the value in like signing, like making the like, right, you have the SBOM and the artifact inside the signature envelope or whatever, right? I think, and so, and it seems like the people who were asking us for this were asking us for it, like by analogy to cosine functionality. So I want to ask the unpopular question, like, does anybody even still want this? Like, maybe the answer is yes, but I don't know, like, yeah, so I'm just trying to make sure. So I understand the proposal, just so I understand what the proposal is like that Syft should be able to upload Syft should be able to just attach its output to the same repository where the image was. That's basically the proposal, or is there more to the proposal? I'm trying to understand how it interacts with the like fact that cosine had this feature and deprecated it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so you went like that one step further where it's like where the image came from. And this isn't necessarily assuming that, but that could be a flavor in design. So like kind of what you said is if this, so like the suggestion on the screen for the command says like Syft, image dash O OCI and then a place. And your flavor is kind of like that minus the place. It would be dash O OCI, and it would magically figure out, let's like just go put it back where I got the image from, which is like even more auto magical and useful. Did that translate?
Yeah. I guess I'm just okay. So I took it one step farther, but the idea is that Syft should be able to attach its own output to various places, like specifically
Right.
OCI registries in this case. Is that
Yeah.
so? This is the feature proposed is equivalent to like Syft-O JSON pipe to some file and or as push.
Yeah.
Basically.
Or like
Okay.
a cosine attach. Yeah. So
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because it seemed like the reason I was pushing back a little bit is it seemed like there was a particular time a couple of years ago when a number of people were interested in this as analogous functionality to cosine, and then we haven't heard anybody ping on it since. And so I was wondering if we have evidence that this is a use of our time that the community would find valuable.
yeah, I mean, I don't have any other signal other than this issue to answer the question. So
When was the last update on this issue not from us?
a while.
Well,
ago.
this one,
2022.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
I was just looking through the issue where they deprecated the one methodology in cosine because I was wondering like who would have linked to this in their own, what other projects did implement this spec and are having to pull it out because the spec has changed or they deprecate this. And I wondered like are there a bunch of other tools that did go down this route and people did use it, and we are the outlier by not having this as part of our platform. But I don't know, without a bit of research looking into some of these, they look like that's documentation. That doesn't look like a tool. Like some of these are like automations, like workflows and so on. They're not necessarily a tool that does a thing and also uploads the SBOM, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think my a little bit concern is like somebody asked for this at a time when it was a best or at least okay practice to just to chuck an SBOM into the OCI registry next to the artifact. And I think that the now preferred practice is the in toto attestation. And I don't like what I would want to see is people who want the attested SBOM image bundle, like who don't want that, but still want to put SBOMs in an OCI registry. And I haven't seen any evidence of that aside from this like flurry of interest in 2022 when cosine attached was a thing.
Right. It's over a period of a few months in like it started in 2021. And then, dropped on the floor until there was a bit of conversation, I guess, at the community meeting there, a bit of a flurry in response to that. And then someone mentioning another tool and supporting this, but then, nothing after 2 years. So I'm kind of inclined to agree that there's not a huge amount of like thumbs up everywhere and, lots of people. It's a small number of people who have asked for this. That's not a lot of people.
Yeah. What about the philosophy question? So like, I won't disagree on like should we implement the specific issue? Like I won't, I'll be a +0 there. But in terms of like where does the team stand in these kinds of asks where we add, essentially like easy pluggable support for things coming in and things going up and out. So like some other examples have been like, oh, well, right now, if you want to do a Git repo, you have to do a Git clone and then point Syft at it. And we've had an ask saying, oh, well, can't you just support Git as a scheme? So it's just Syft, Git : give it a URL or just give it a URL and it'll figure it out. And so that's like in that philosophy of like just, auto magically, plug into things nicely. And so this is an example of like OCI going out and we're saying, okay, for this specific feature, we don't know if we believe in this specific feature. That's fine. But like, where do we stand for that philosophy point though?
I personally think that one of the really nice things about Syft is that it will, like, you give it a string that means some artifact. You just do Syft, the name I use for my thing that I'm thinking of, and Syft will do its best to scan it. And I think that that's like, it's not exactly in line with like the sort of small sharp tool philosophy, but Syft is already a bit of a Swiss Army knife, right? It's already like, it'll do OCI registry. It'll try to get it from the Podman daemon. It'll try to get it from, an OCI archive. It'll try to get it from the Docker daemon. It'll try like, and I think that, getting it from a remote Git repository doesn't strike me as like crossing a big gap there. Like it strikes me as like if I installed Syft and I was like, I wonder if I can just do Syft, github.com, my org, my cool project. Oh, look, it worked. Like that wouldn't that that wouldn't feel bad to me. It doesn't feel like a prohibitive amount of stuff to maintain. And I think that it's one of the like I I don't know. I have like the beginning of a thought about how it's different from the small sharp tools that, like grep that we all know and love that do like one thing. Um like there's a place for those, but I think maybe they're at a lower level of abstraction than Syft. So anyway, I am a +1 on like ecosystem aware features. Like we know people want to put things in OCI registries. We know people want to scan remote repositories. I'm a +1 in that direction, and I can't articulate the philosophy super well right now. Um, so what do other people think?
I think the one thing that you said in there to me that like resonated pretty well was that like Syft is already sort of aggregating a bunch of things today. And so like Syft it already isn't that one narrowly sharp focused thing. It's already aggregating a bunch of things to support a wide a range of ecosystems and different technologies and all the type of stuff that it does because it has to. And sort of by association, it does feel to me like, yeah, extending that to the flip side is not a stretch at all.
And like there's a bit of a story here in terms of like the pluggability within our own tooling. So like there's a Vexhall Discovery PR that's out there. And it's like one feature away from crossing the finish line, but imagine it's merged. Like the whole idea is that you can auto discover Vex documents from OCI registries when you give it an image. And that fits in this vein. That's from an input stance. And like I honestly do think that the more of these kinds of things that we plumb into Syft, that they benefit Grype automatically too, Grant automatically too. Like you can auto discover these kinds of documents from these other locations that we plug into, without the user having to orchestrate that, which resonates with me. So
you're
Yeah, I
suggesting
did.
if sorry, Chris, just to clarify my mind, you're saying if Syft grew the ability to push a generated SBOM back up to a container via magic or voodoo or being told exactly how, then someone else or another part of the chain could use Grype without having to generate that SBOM and just pull it straight from the registry and know
right,
that it came from that container.
yeah, because we know that generating SBOMs is like the expensive part when it comes to Grype. So like Grype, when it runs and you give it an image, it spends time pulling down the image, generating an SBOM, and then doing the work of vulnerability matching. And well, if there was an authoritative SBOM already there in the registry, it's like, well, look for it first, use that, pull that down, and then do matching against that. But without involving the user in that like choreography, is I think the important part.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Chris, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I didn't have a great opinion on this one way or another while people were giving their opinions. I was trying to listen and also see what the current workflow would be like on my computer. And it's awkward enough piping stuff to ORAS push and configuring all that when then trying to use the other tools downstream that I've landed to be in favor of more of this kind of stuff existing in Syft. It's just, yeah.
Okay.
There's another. Oh, sorry. Go for it, Will.
I was just gonna say, I feel like the question about like get remote repositories, like I think I misunderstood the scope of the discussion. Like I don't know. I thought we weren't talking about attaching SBOMs anymore when we talked about that. I'm not sure. Like for me, there's still a big like, do people attach SBOMs to OCI registries other than signed attestations? Is still a big question in my mind. I suspect the answer is no because Cosine dropped it, and Cosine seems to be like how people do this sort of thing. But that's a vague impression.
So
I'll
Go
give
maybe
you.
ahead,
we
Alan.
we could be the change you want to see, Will. We could do it.
Do we
I was also using
want
it as an
Grype?
illustrative point and less than, because I'm de-emphasizing like the specific issue, but I kind of went back to OCI registries as again, an auto discovery mechanism, the same way that Vex auto discovery PR is working. So it was more of an illustrative point than it was like talking about, let's go implement this exact thing. So so sorry, I didn't mean to
That's okay.
throw
I
in
just
something. So
I just have totally lost track of what I'm being asked to weigh in on.
let's see.
So
So
the functionality that we would be adding to Syft, to clarify what Will's trying to say, is it's not the SBOM itself as a layer, but it actually is the entire full envelope being attached and uploaded. Is that correct? Or we're not there.
What I'm trying,
we were
I think I'm trying to say two things. Like, I am not opposed philosophically to adding more things that automatically work. Like, if the string pass to Syft Grype is a remote Git repo, figure out how to scan it. Sounds great. As an example. So, like, a philosophical point there. And then I think that the present issue we're looking at right now is entirely replaced by Syft attest, and we should close it as won't fix. Those are the 2 points I'm trying to make. I don't know. I feel like there's further discussion, but I'm not tracking it super well.
well, okay. I mean, it sounds so. What you're doing is you're clicking back down into the specifics of this OCI 592, and just to do that for a second, like I think the answer is I don't know. So yeah, for folks that are willing to sign stuff, they want to get keys involved, and they want to go to that extra complexity. Then yeah, I mean that having attestations is like the way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think that there is another set of users who are like, I don't want to get involved with signing things. I don't want a attestation because it's extra work. So, and ORAS is a way there where it's like, and that's widely used. And so that could be a mechanism which we say, take SBOMs, plop them into a spot and use it. And there are other ways too to do that. And this is why I think this 592 has now gone from like a needs discussion. I don't think we need like a heavy discussion on it. It's really more like a needs investigation, because there's what would we do here if we were to do it at all? But yeah, I mean, the cosign attached is specifically listed here for cosign is deprecated in cosign, but that mechanism of how it works still is valid. I just don't think we would probably do it. That's the needs investigation part. Like we would go the ORAS route or something else. But I mean, I was more interested in the philosophical point than I was about 592 at this point. So.
Right. And I think one of the things I got confused on is the philosophical point seems to be like mixed around a little bit. Like in my mind, there's like a line where like somebody gives our tool a string that happens to be the URL of a remote Git repository. We try to scan it. That makes a lot of sense to me because it's apparently what the user told us to do. Then there's like a separate discussion of like somebody gives Grype an image URL, like a string that we parse into the URL for an OCI image. And then we just like behind the scenes decide that because an SBOM is attached in the right spot, we're going to use that instead of scan the image. In my mind, those are totally different things, because in one of them, we're making it easier. Like the user asked us to explicitly do a thing, and we're just like cutting out the middleman. And in the other one, where we have like this spooky action at a distance, like somebody ORAS pushing SBOMs up changes the behavior of our tools, even when they're invoked the same way. And those are, and that's a big distinction for me. I'm firmly in camp scan get remote registries, and I don't know about the other one.
Yeah, and that's okay to not know about the other one. I think that one it still needs more discussion. That's in my head, that's like very much a UX thing. I don't think the user should have those things being swapped out from under them without them knowing. And it should be like, hey, these aren't automatic opt-in things. either. So I think, yeah, that's like more thought is needed for those. But again, this was like an illustrative point. Like what if these plug together more nicely and auto magically? So but yeah, there's a lot of implementation details on this stuff that would need to be figured. So I mean, we've probably gone as far as we're gonna go into in this topic. Probably move on to the next one.
Sure thing. Not that one. That one. So, what's the next one? Do we have one candidate or not?
I don't know if Will, you wanted to talk about the PR for the
Yeah, I had a couple. I think Clio is actually not in your saved search, but we added
Boom.
Dean's discussion to a pull request against Clio. So
Is it
if
this
you
one?
scroll down,
68.
yep.
yeah.
So scroll down. There's like a long comment thread in the code, and my last comment in here is what I wanted to discuss.
This one?
Yeah. So
Okay.
right now, so this PR is meant to fix a small bug where if there's no TTY present and you don't configure a logging verbosity, the log.warn messages get discarded. And people have complained about this because they're like invoking Syft from some other programming language and it doesn't have a TTY. They're just like streaming standard out and standard error into buffers within that programming environment or whatever. And so I think it's definitely a bug in Syft. But like we had a discussion in the PR about how to sort of unify decisions around logging. And I realized that the reason I'm not sure this PR is taking us in the right direction is because I'm not sure there's total agreement on what the UX is, because there are sort of three like separate decisions with regards to our UX that all the tools make broadly. One is, do we do the fancy terminal UI stuff? Like, do we have access to like the control characters or whatever? Are we going to like draw little spinners and show progress bars and stuff? That's question one. Question two is, what file do we write logs to? Not terminal UI, logs. And then question three is, what is the level on the logger? Like, does log.trace show up, or only log.debug, or only log.warn, or whatever? So there's three questions there. And then there's like four inputs, right? There's like, did the user pass -- quiet? There's like, did the user pass -- verbose? There's, is there a TTY available? And is the log file config set? And I think that what I'd like to try to agree on is like how the three decisions are in. Maybe we just need like a 12, 3x4 truth table or something. But I wanted to understand, and I gave an example in there. So if somebody does Syft log file equals temp log.txt, Syft -- quiet -vvv scan my image, my opinion is that there should be no TUI. The list of packages should go to standard out, and trace logs should go to that file, and that this is a valid invocation. I don't know what happens today. I didn't test that.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yes.
The challenge accepted.
So I think maybe that's what it does today. But okay, so far so good. What's in temp log.txt? Or maybe just how long is it? Because if it's really trace logs, there's going to be some stuff in there.
Nothing.
Okay, nothing. And I think that's a bug.
Yep.
And so I just wanted to say, like, I don't know. I think I wanted to get some buy-in, basically that quiet and verbose interact only in the terminal output, but if there's a log file, verbose rules over quiet. I think is basically the decision I'm asking people for. That sound good?
Yeah, thumbs up.
What?
Full plus one from me. I don't.
Okay.
I think quiet is a visual thing. It should not turn logging off for the entire app everywhere, right? There's no. I don't see a valid use case for that. I do think it's
right. Well, I think Yeah, I guess. Okay, maybe I should have written up the whole
There,
table
there's a
real
miss.
quick. But
Oh, you won't want to because there's a missing variable. You
uh-oh,
could
what?
also in the config specifically convey the log level.
Ah,
Dun, dun,
okay,
dun. So this would be like Syft underscore log underscore level, I think. But yeah. So we'll save that one for
okay.
we'll save that one too.
I agree with the
I,
statement though that quiet should only determine what is seen at the terminal level and not
Agreed.
control content that is being piped to a log file or elsewhere. Yeah.
okay,
Agreed.
and then I think if verbosity, like, I think, my opinion, count of V's and log levels are like aliases for the same config.
Yeah.
Like dash VVV is log.trace, right?
Right.
That's just what it means. If they're both specified, then if they're both specified in the config file, I'm not sure what to do. But if they're both specified, like, I think we have the rule that like command line flags override environment variables override configs or some precedents like that. And so if they're both specified because they're aliases, the config, um, like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, that makes sense. Now I can go back to this PR and decide whether it moves us closer to that world. And if it
Yeah.
does, I'll try to get it in, and if it doesn't,
Well,
I'll try to fix it.
and I actually want to kind of contextualize that PR in terms of like I don't think this PR should solve that truth table, and I don't think that's what you're saying. But I think like just the no TTY aspect, like fixing that issue would be good, and then additionally like making an issue saying, hey, there's something wrong for these like Clio configs and how they like convey
Right.
to other resources, because that's like I think everybody's head nodding at that, and I think
Okay.
it's just drifted over time.
Okay, so it sounds like what we want to do is type up that truth table and test it, and then make an issue for the diff if there's a diff. But in the meantime, I think try to get this PR in because it like log.warn shouldn't be dropped just because there's no TTY. And so I think fixing that ambiguous bug there. Okay, cool. Thanks for
Nice.
validating my impression there that those are sort of like orthogonal concerns.
Sweet. What's next? Do you want to pick one? Oh, there's a question, by the way, that came up in the chat asking what the origin of the name Syft is. Does anyone know off the top of their head? Is it a one-line answer, or is it a deep philosophical conversation or linguistics question, or what is it?
I mean, it came from like, searching for something, like you're using, like you're sifting through stuff to find things. And like, but I do remember that there was a debate about like, well, isn't this what like Grype is doing? Isn't Grype sifting through to find matches? It's like, oh no, it's more doing something else. And so we had that debate back and forth. But no, it's really stands for SIFT, sifting through things. So that probably a boring answer, but the answer nonetheless.
It's an answer. And it is what Syft always gets auto-corrected to in YouTube. The automatic subtitles, closed captions, always gets auto-corrected to SIFT, and I have to go through and edit it every time.
Yeah, I don't know when the Y got thrown in. Like, I think we like realized that like it could be done in both Syft and Grype. We're like, oh yeah, Y's.
Right, let's add Y's to all our product names. Brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Enterprise with a Y-E on.
I'm like waiting for like the next project that comes through that starts with a Y that we also going to do some Y replacement in the middle. I'm like, yep, here we go.
Missed opportunity to spell quill with a Y though.
Oh yeah, I think that's where we definitely started. Like like no, it's just a name. It doesn't have to have Y's everywhere.
Sweet. Right, we've got some time left. We've got about 20 minutes. Do we have another thing to discuss? Anyone got one that they'd really like to pick? I mean, I quite like the look of that one,
Oh,
but
there was I saw that there was a needs discussion put on like the Syft 1088 for adding native support for Flatpak and snap packages.
yes.
But I didn't know if there was a question here or if it was just like a like really needs investigation as opposed to discussion.
That was Will who added that. A while ago. Did we talk about this? I
Oh,
don't think we
sorry.
did.
Yeah, I think probably this needs I think probably just it needed to connect the dots that there's like a sufficiently permissively licensed Squash FS implementation we could try to pull into Stereoscope or whatever. I don't think we need further discussion. Sorry, I'm trying to be better about only dropping a wall of text.
Well,
if
I have a
apply
question.
the needs discussion label.
I have a question, and that is that these packages are not served up from a container registry, and so Syft will be able to look in a directory that contains a snap or a Flatpak, but would it want to get the smarts to be able to go and get the Flatpak files and the snaps from the store fronts, shall we call them?
That would be the equivalent of like asking Syft, like given a Perl for like a PyPy package to go and get like that package, which we don't have precedence for.
No, it seems to me that it would be a lot like asking Syft to scan a remote Git repository, for
Yep.
example, or a lot like asking Syft, like if I do like Syft Ubuntu latest, like it's gonna go like Syft is going to find a thing running on my machine that can pull containers. Like, is there a Docker? Is there a Podman? Oh, I'll just fall back to my statically linked registry client. And then it'll say like, okay, do I have authorization to pull this from Docker Hub? And I'll just try it.
Right.
And so it's just going to go download like a gig of stuff and scan it. And like,
But just for clarifying, I wasn't saying what I wasn't saying what to like a future state. I was saying like, what we do now versus that other philosophy question. So, I mean, yeah, like in terms of that previous question, yeah, we would start allowing for a lot of downloading stuff from places and knowing about canonical registries, etc. But like,
yeah,
I mean,
that would
probably
be
the first cut of this
another-
is not that.
Go scan this one remote URL that download whatever it is and tell me what it is.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
I
so
mean, like-
so the answer to that question is basically yes. It would need to grow support to go and get whatever that asset is, whatever type of file it is. And
I think the first cataloger wouldn't, but then yeah, eventually we would. But I think and that's why I was interested in that question earlier. Is like, well, if we are bought into it, we need like a larger plan for what that is. Because I think, like, how would that work for maybe central PyPy snaps? Name it. Like, we don't want folks to have to say, like, please give me the npm exact URL. Like, we could probably want some other way to do it. And Perls seem natural, but so.
Wait, can't we? I mean, we already have the prefix verbs like docker : dir : like what is to stop us from like snap : or npm : and just like iterating on the ecosystems in that way, and then providing like the logical group name prefix that most registries or blob stores adhere to.
Good.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay,
Okay, so that's
question.
like that's an option. That's open,
Yeah.
and that's like one of the better options we have. Okay, got it.
I think there's sort of two like totally separate requests in here, which is like, given like a snap or a Flatpak just sitting on my hard drive, Syft should be able to tell me what's in it. I think we should definitely do that. I think it's pretty easy. And then there's like given a string
Reference,
that Syft
right.
thinks is a snap on a remote server somewhere, Syft knows how to go get it and scan it for you. And like those are different questions. I'm not opposed to
Yeah.
building either of them, but there's a lot more there's a lot more research needed in the second one, right? The first one is like just building another file indexer in Stereoscope. The second one is like, yeah, I mean those seem great. They're not as easy as like there's some defaulting around the Docker client, right? Where like if there's just an image name, we like try, like Docker Hub is like the first choice because that's how you invoke the Docker CLI and stuff. And so I don't know. I feel like there's a little investigation needed here, but I'm not opposed to building it.
Well, that's why I'm saying like that this is like a whole nother issue that needs to be thought about like holistically across all the kinds of requests we want. We wouldn't want to like, and that's why I look at this issue, this 1088, and I say like my interpretation is like this is clearly only about the native support locally, and because we wouldn't want to add this magical support for just one ecosystem without thinking about the others. Like I think we really want an issue that's like how would we want to do this for any kind of thing, and then break off issues for those because I think if we were to add the first one without thinking about the others, we might corner ourselves pretty quick. By not thinking about something.
Right, but okay. So I think that there's probably someone could open up like a research spike issue that's like what common online repositories are publish snap and flatpak files and like who uses them and do they publish the same kind of thing? Are they like there's a whole research story and like how we build that, similar to like we would do if we wanted to support a different image format or something. But then this is like ready to go. Like just go try to build the thing.
So I guess this needs changing to needs research. Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah,
someone.
I switched it.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I don't know. My vote would be that this means scan what I have locally, and it doesn't need research. It's ready to pick up. And then there's another one that's like Syft can fetch them for you, and that one needs research.
Yeah, I mean, I still put needs investigation because there's still some unknowns about the. But I mean, I put it in the ready column, so it's in the ready column.
Okay.
Like so, it's like we know how to open up Squash FS, but we don't know much else about what's in them and how to. So that's why there's a needs investigation. I probably should put needs help as opposed to needs investigation, like help wanted maybe.
Well, if you have open questions, I know some of the answers to some of those questions, but I don't know what the questions are. Having built a lot of snaps over the years and investigated flatpaks a lot, I could probably get you answers to whatever questions you have. If you put some questions in there, I can get them.
Fun.
Sounds great. All right, it's ready for work. That's exciting.
Sweet.
Hooray.
Right, where are we? 10 minutes. So that we've knocked out 2, 3. Any others that
you skipped one I was kind of excited about when you were just scrolling down. The second one down.
The pet one.
Yeah, so this is basically like this is going to be a little bit more philosophical, but if you look, I think I left a good comment on here. I didn't just slap needs discussion on it 2 months ago.
What's this about?
If you look at the I think if you scroll down, there'll be
there we go.
A good comment. So like upstream data vendors, right? Like package metadata just has version as a string, right? And like that's fine. It can just be an opaque string, and I don't care on some level. But Grype needs to be able to compare versions. And so like this came up because like the Alpine SecDB had an issue for a while where there was some like, I don't know, there was like a left curly in a version or like no, it wasn't a left curly. It was like a K or something.
Yeah. We went to GitLab and made a PR and fixed it with them.
Right. But then there was also like somebody has put like Ubuntu in the version of their PyPy package, which is also like I didn't go read PEP 440, but it blows up on our version parsing, and it's sort of a second case of like an overall issue, which is like, do we think we have the right handling when upstream publishes a goofy version string? As sort of my discussion question here.
Short answer, no.
Okay.
So right now if we do left hand, right hand type or format type comparisons. We say like, do these formats match? If not, blow up. And so that's one form of handling for the incongruity. But the other one is like, okay, I say it's this type. I go to parse it as a type, and I don't get a valid version. We don't have any fallback either there to say, then use another way. So we have a fallback, a fuzzy version comparison logic that we could fall back to. I don't think we try to do that. And same thing, like, well, if I have left hand, right hand, one's fuzzy and the other one is not semantic or not fuzzy, I don't know what happens. I don't know if it tries to do the comparison. So I think there's cases missing here.
I think at one point we had it turned on where we fell back to the fuzzy matcher for certain ecosystems, and it got a lot of stuff wrong. I'm trying to remember when this was. I remember we had to drop support for the fuzzy matching and just bomb out because it was leading to a lot of like results that people just off like reading the table would go, those are incorrect. Like those do not. I can eyeball and see that those versions are not compared correctly.
Yeah, I have the same sense for that one. I
have to find the change.
kind of envisioning that it would be like a pseudo semantic version comparison where it's like, look for the symver, allow for non-compliant postfix and weird stuff like that, and then compare that in like a fuzzy way. But it would do a semantic comparison first.
Yeah, I think right, because the Grype database says for like a given vulnerability what version format the version is in. Like, is this an RPM version? Is this a I forget what the other choices are.
Well, in the
which is
Grype
really
explain
helpful.
for a CV, the Grype
No,
explain.
in the database, there's a version format call up. And so I guess what really the case we're in is where either the version in the SBOM or the version in the vulnerability doesn't parse as that format. Like, is there anything we can do to recover? Is maybe the question. Chris, did you find something, or you have?
Well, I agree with is there something we can do to recover? Going down that line of thinking, I wanted to kind of nix the first item that you said, dropping the record at build time, because there's been times where we've dropped records before. Someone has come to us and said, you don't have this vulnerability. We've done the investigation and gone, oh, we don't have this. And then we go and look and we go, oh, we don't have this because it's like a whole really long outer loop cycle of figuring out why Grype is being smarter than we expect it to be, or the DB is being smarter than we expect it to be. So
right.
I'd rather like whatever decision making Grype's doing around this be highlighted at the run instead of the research going backwards to find why we didn't do the thing. That was my only comment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not recommending item one. It's just a thing we could do, and it's come up in the comments. Like a couple of people have said, like, why don't you just not have invalid version strings in the database? And it's like, well, because we can't just go tell GHSA or Alpine that they're not allowed to put the letter U in a version. Like, if they do, we have to do something.
Yeah, right? It's a good way for us to discover.
Drop the record on the floor.
Right. That's the thing. We can tell them to not put it in there, but it may be 3 months before that PR lands, and we still need to handle it within the 3 months without dropping it. And Chris, you were saying something.
No, I think I think including it in the DB in these cases allow us to help discover. Like, we would never have found that Alpine security incorrect version matching if it didn't blow up at runtime when someone was trying to scan it, and we got the PR in for that. So there's multiple cases of us contributing back and doing that. So not including it is like shuts off that avenue of like security research for us.
Yeah. I don't think anybody says we shouldn't. I mostly included point one so that we could not do it. That's why it says we should.
To anger me enough to speak out against it, so that we knew we wanted to nix it.
No. So that it's like explicitly considered and rejected, so that we don't have people telling us we should have done it. But yeah, I don't think anybody really wants to do that one. We could try to normalize it. I think that also has the same disadvantages. Basically, it's like even harder to investigate than dropping it. We should normalize it at runtime. So it sounds like we're in agreement that we should try to find a way of falling back more gracefully, where we do something like, I don't know, can I parse them both as a semver? Can I parse them both as a as a this or that, like, and try to fall back a little more gracefully. So maybe it's just an investigation.
It would be. I mean, I'm gonna make a note for myself. I want to see what it's like to do this and what the Python matcher would look like if we were to fall back in this case, because it's not like we get a ton of these. Like if we sent this to the fuzzy matcher and to see what it came up with, and if it came up with the right result rather than just bombing out.
Yeah, that might be a good investigation.
Well,
Is
I
this
guess
the
Showing
sorry?
us.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm kind of curious, what would we want the behavior to be here? If I'm an end user, what do I want the behavior to be? Do I want to get a warning up in my face that says, hey, you have a thing and we have a thing, and it, like, we can't parse our own thing? Like, that seems like it has the potential to get really noisy if we have bad data coming in from like a bunch of places, which we do.
Yeah, maybe so. I think that's a good point. I think that the case that bums me out here is like because part of the version constraint for this particular GHSA involves something that our implementing PEP 440 and Golang can't parse. Like, we just get false negatives on this. Like, we'll never find this, and that bums me out. I'd like to avoid that. That's what I know about the user experience. Right, so we have the version constraint greater than 1.7.0, less than 1.9.0, Ubuntu 1.2. And like that like, I'm like, I think we could agree that if you have version 1.8.3, you're vulnerable. Like, as humans looking at this. And I would like to give that scan result to people if we could figure out a good way to do it.
Yes, the edge cases, like, was where we might get bit. But yeah, I mean, I agree with the all the other non-edge casey stuff. So.
And is that because someone took an Ubuntu package and pushed it up to PyPy or something? What, like, or is that
yeah? Well, we get this wonderful error. This is what's happening now in Grype, which is probably not what we want.
right?
But the reason for that, if you go to those GHSA links in the issue, like, and just look at them, like, look at the version constraint. Like, I don't know why. Like, I think somebody, maybe they have specific, I don't know, maybe they have OS specific native extensions and they're trying to encode this in version numbers. Maybe this is just bad data in GHSA. I don't know why it looks like this, but that right there, what you're looking at, is why this is trying to be in the GrypeDB, is because it's what GHSA has.
I mean, this is valid because Python apt is a package that ships on Ubuntu, right? And so it's an Ubuntu package, which is why it's got all these crazy, like, Ubuntu patched version numbers.
Okay.
I don't know.
So these are like, okay, maybe we're, in this specific case, we're just being too narrow about what kind of versions Python packages are allowed to have. It wouldn't be the first time.
I mean, and that one doesn't quite translate for me, because, I mean, unless like on the, so A is this updated to PyPy, and then B in PyPy is this, that. But like, usually Ubuntu packages are, so like, this is where like the OS package overrides the system package. So like, Canonical already has like, a huge set of a large data set that's already tracking
I'm just going to go to pypy.org and search for Python APT and see.
See
if it's even there.
Be amazed if it's there, because it's a binary deb for it's the apt interface, isn't it? Isn't that what it is? Python apt.
You can install Python apt binary, apparently, from, there's not actually a package on PyPy called Python apt. That's an interesting question. Like, is this not really a PyPy package? Like, did somebody incorrectly put deb version, like, maybe the GitHub?
Yeah, I think they put this there intentionally. Like, GitHub Security Advisors does not support like Debian right now. So that's true. A lot of the OS stuff is just not supported. That's
Right.
not really the case. It's trying to be language ecosystem. I think somebody wanted this to be caught feel when you find like the egg, the wheel, etc. Installing a bunch of system and you're using something that's using GHSAs, like you wanted to catch it. That's so I don't think if we were to go make the PR against GitHub Security Advisors say delete these, Ubuntu from here, I don't think it would be correct.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Well,
that's why it's questionable and gray. That's all.
I think
it's a weird-
yes, you're right. Those Ubuntu version numbers are right. I think this is the thing that's wrong. The thing that says pip, right?
Right. It's not like if I wanted this package on Ubuntu, I would do apt-get install python apt. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
In fact, it's probably one of the shipped packages. I would imagine.
Right. It's interesting. Okay. So I wonder.
It would be Python 3 apt probably by now. Yes. That's an old package from when Python 2 was a thing. So these days it's called Python 3 apt, and it's on every install.
Right. And I think that it probably I think this, yeah. I wonder if the Python cataloger finds it, because presumably there's plenty of Python in there, and so we'll find the wheel or egg or whatever, and try to parse it. But okay, this is more of an edge case than I thought, where it's like somebody has published a vulnerability against a Ubuntu package,
The wrong
in
ecosystem,
GHSA
basically.
as
Yeah.
though it's a pip package, which is, I don't know if they're wrong or not. We should probably do something besides log an error when we can't inflate the object. So I will look into that.
Well, I don't think they're wrong because, again, like if you were to install this package and then, ask the Python ecosystem tooling, what's the version for this package? Was it like import lib metadata dot version for package called what is this called?
Python apt.
Yeah, so that I'm pretty certain you would get back the version in question, like the one with Ubuntu in it. So it's like I think Grype just needs to be resilient to this. But I think it's what we mentioned kind of towards the top of this. Like we should, it's good to log and say that we couldn't parse a thing when we thought we could, but I think we should go that step further and have some graceful degrading behavior around the version parsing logic as well as the left-hand, right-hand comparison logic for different types. Like we don't have really in-depth fallback logic there. So
Sweet. I'm glad we had that conversation. Thank you, everyone. We're over time. Sorry, everyone, for taking a little bit more of your afternoon, evening, morning than we should have done. I'll wrap up super fast. We do this every week. Like and subscribe. And everyone, have a great Friday, a great weekend. We'll see you next time for more of this. And take care. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
see you, folks.